Welcome to the next set of sessions and this session in particular. So, before we jump into that, I have a couple of questions. Have you been to the video booth? We're looking for 100% participation, and we are counting on you. So, stop by the video booth if you haven't been there already. You'll record a short video and you're going to share your story with everyone, giving words of encouragement, and then letting us know what are your hopes, what are your dreams for the cleft community moving forward. We want to hear from you. Also, have you stopped by the video meeting rooms? That tab can also be found on the left-hand side of your screen. It's one of the options, and we are limiting those rooms to 8 people. We want the conversations to be intimate. We want everyone to be engaged and have an opportunity to share your story and inspire others, as well as being inspired in those rooms. So stop by there if you haven't already. And again, we have a swag bag that Smile Train has put together. And so click on Join the Game. If you haven't visited Join the Game, or even if you have, we've got new questions. We keep refreshing those questions. We keep changing them around. And so again, you can collect passcodes, you can collect points, and we'll see how that turns out. So make sure you visit those 3 tabs. All right. So we are on to a relevant, an important, and an impactful conversation. Oh my gosh, are you going to love this? We have with us the founder of Real Sophisticated Joy and the founder of Cleft Love, Learning to Love My Smile. Now, they are going to discuss relationships, online dating, and reimagining conventional standards of beauty. I was fortunate to speak to them backstage, and you are going to love this. They are inspirational. Take it away, ladies.
Okay, so today, in preparation for this, I went and got my hair cut because that's a thing that I do
Oh,
now. Thank you, thank you,
it looks great.
thank
I
you,
like it.
thank you. I was nervous about cutting it, but I'm actually really liking the cut on me. It's like ooh. So I have
Yeah,
seen
super
this
cute.
thing. I've seen this guy a couple times, and but he always says hi or make a little joke. Don't take him too seriously. But today he was
Yeah.
adamant about giving me his number. And
Ooh.
although flattered, a part of me was like, okay, I have to have this conversation with him. I'm going to have the big C conversation, the big
Yeah.
clef
Yeah. And was
conversation.
this a guy that you met like at the hair salon
So he's a
or it was
barber. So
like
I
after?
get the sides like
Oh,
cut down. So he's a barber.
yes.
And so obviously he's seen me before, that's fine. But we all know when it's different
Yeah.
from just seeing to dating.
Right. For sure. Yeah. And do you think having that conversation is like the hardest part about dating with a cleft, or do you think that there's something else that's more challenging? And do you think there's a difference in your answer between like online dating versus meeting someone in the real world?
Absolutely. Absolutely. To the last question, I'm going to work backwards.
Yeah.
So the only thing that makes it a little bit more comfortable me having that conversation with him, all because it is a needed conversation and I'm gonna have to do it, is the fact that he's
Yeah.
seen me several times, so it's not a shock. Comparative to online dating, you always have to make sure that at least one photo is a clear, straight on photo because I never want someone to feel like I catfished them. And I didn't. And this is
Yes.
also my face. So I don't want you to expect anything different because I'm going to show up as me.
Yeah, for sure. And um I feel like for a long time I never said anything about it, like
Mhm.
specifically for online dating. Um, and I think more recently, like now I actually put it in my profile that I'm cleft affected and proud. And I think part of that for me is because like in pictures, I can like pass as not being cleft affected. And then when I show up, there's this like double take or like the extra linger, you know?
Exactly.
And so it just feels like, yeah. So I would much rather have people like know up front for sure.
And it like you're saying, because I can't take this off. I can't change this. This is me. And so I want it to be not in your face, but I want you to know that this is a part of me. Clef is a part of me. And especially for the both of us, we work in clef. We work with clef and craniofacials.
Yeah,
So this is it.
for sure.
So I'm just like, okay, I
Yeah.
know that this conversation is gonna have to be had. It is just kind of figuring out
Yeah.
when. Because I don't know about you. Have you ever had a relationship where you just didn't talk about it?
Yes, actually, a few times. So the longest relationship I was ever in was actually with someone who also had cleft, and we talked about it once in a while, but like not very much.
Mhm.
And then I dated someone for probably 6 months, and it never came up, like ever. But what's also interesting, which is crazy to me because it's such a big part of my life,
Yeah.
but what's really interesting is I just went out with a guy last week that I met on Hinge. Feel like it went good. But so it was really interesting because I have that whole thing about, you know, that I am cleft affected, and it was something that we had sort of texted about prior to. But like when we were actually on the date, he like asked me about it, and like, you know, he was like, what causes it? And like, how do you think it impacted you? And we talked about my surgeries, and like, it was just such a different start to a potential relationship than a lot of other dates that I've had. So I feel like it was very refreshing.
That's beautiful. I'm excited for you because I can tell by the way that you were telling me that, like he was asking for informative, not the someone isn't. He was
Oh, yes, totally.
yeah, he was asking for information because he wanted to be informed. Go ahead, Ashley. Yay.
So we'll see. We have another date next Tuesday.
Yeah, we have a second date. See, again, if nothing else comes of it, at least because that's a big win when you are clef affected and you're trying to date and that's the online dating with the clef. So that is a big win. We're gonna celebrate that. You need to celebrate that. And the second date.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty excited. So, you know, I'm trying to like keep my energy open, you know, and not get like too whatever, like worried about the outcome. But I think if nothing else, it just proves that there are people out there who, you know, are understanding and interested and kind. And I also wonder if like, you know, where I am at in my cleft journey right now, like I'm at a place where I'm mostly comfortable with it, right? Like when we were talking about it, was it a little bit like activating? Yeah, like a little bit. But like I was able to talk about it in a way that I wouldn't have been able to talk about even a few years ago. I mean, even like it's been hard for me in the past to just talk about dating with my friends, you know, because like I almost felt like embarrassed that like people would know that I wanted someone to be interested in me romantically, you know?
I absolutely. You never wanting to let your crush know that you had a crush on them because you didn't. I don't know. For myself, I just already felt like they would not like me because of my clef. It was just,
Yeah.
what? Don't even waste your time. They're not going to be interested. And I too have had relationships 2, 3 years. We never discussed it. And it was like, if you don't want to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it either. And now I can't even imagine that. Like we have to have a conversation about it because it is there. And it's a part of me. It's what I do. So we have to have the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And has it like ever been an issue with like a partner's parents or anything like that?
Absolutely. So this one guy, I think this was very early on in me and my loving my cleft journey. And so I was more proactive than I think I had ever been in a relationship about, hey, this is what it is. I was born with this, but you know, has no effect and it has made me a better person. He was totally accepting of it. We had a good relationship, but we were fairly new. We were like 3 months into dating. And
Yeah.
he had me meet his mom.
Yeah.
And she made a comment. And
Oh, no.
loosely translated, the comment was, "That's nice, but don't bring that into my family." As
Like
if,
implying that like your kids would be affected.
absolutely. And now I will give him his credit that he immediately, said something to his mother, like, "That's not right." And I was very appreciative for him for that, because that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But I knew
Yeah.
instantly, the moment I get back home, we're done. We're done.
Yeah.
And I had a
Right.
friend that was like, "Don't you think you were a little premature in cutting him off so quickly?" And I'm going to say at the time, no, I was not, because I was still very much new into my cleft love journey. So it's like, you're not going to take that away from me, one. And then I also had to think about my future child. No, I don't have one yet, but I still have to think for that child. And I would never want to
Yeah.
bring that child into a home that may not love them.
Right. Right. And it's interesting because I feel like, you know, what could have ended up happening if you had stayed together, if you had a baby that was cleft affected, would the mother-in-law have like changed her mind? Probably. You know what I mean? But I can also see you just forever would then be wondering if like maybe she was just lying, or maybe she was like covering it up, or like, or heaven forbid she didn't change her mind and then it was like a real problem for her, and that would be really hard.
Exactly. Like, maybe she never said anything to me, but I still would not want to ever know that she's out there somewhere telling someone, well, she gave my child. I didn't give my child. I would not, as a mother, do that. And so,
Right.
again, I know that it might have been premature, but I feel like I did what was best for me. And he was a great guy, very nice guy. Thanked him for
Yeah.
how he was, but it was just, I couldn't move forward with that relationship.
Yeah. That's totally understandable because even if, it was never an issue, then like you always know that that's what she thinks
That's what
about
she
you.
thought. So it was always going to be
Yeah.
like, even if, let's say, because in a relationship, someone may not be wrong or right, but you're going to have your issues. And
Yeah.
she would always throw that, "Well, I told you not to get with her anyway," because that, and especially
Right.
if that
And
is
you're like,
going to
I
be the
don't want
reason
that.
why he should not have been with me, because of my cleft. No.
Yeah.
You can say many
Right.
other reasons, but that cannot be the issue is why.
Right. And it just like makes us so much who we are. And like, while it was like challenging, there's so many like positive things that came
Right.
out of it,
And I can only
So,
imagine what she would think now that this is my business. Like, I'm a cleft confidence coach. I can only imagine she's probably like, "Well, what kind of job is that?"
right. And you're like, no, thank you. We don't need that energy.
We don't need that energy over here.
No. So when you started dating him, you said that you were like at the beginning of sort of your finding love
Yes.
for yourself in your cleft. Like,
Yeah.
when did that start? Like, how did it start?
So, finding my cleft love, I am a planner. I like to plan everything because I know that things are going to
Yeah.
go wrong. So I'm like, let me plan what I can plan, and the rest can just do what it does. And so
Yeah.
part of that was going into 30. I just really wanted to go into 30 together. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It was like, I think because
Yeah.
growing up, you always hear that 30 is this big shift. And I was just like, I want to
Right.
be ready for it. So at 28, it was, okay, what can I do to start getting ready? And one of the things that I realized was I have to face and embrace my cleft. I can no
Mhm.
longer run from it. It's not going anywhere. You cannot outrun. It's my face. It's mine.
Yeah.
And so I just
Right.
started to work on loving that. And it was funny, like
Yeah.
you said, I think that's why he came about at that time, to let me know that it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I never realized that before. Actually,
Yeah.
like, thank you for asking that question. I never put that together until right then, because yeah, I think I was like 6 months into my own, and then here he came. So yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of like helped you see like, oh yeah, like you're on the right path.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it like, I don't know, I found for myself like the more confident that I've become
Mhm.
with it, like the more, I don't know, like positive or like
Yeah.
attracting energy I put out, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So like people are able to feel more comfortable with it because I feel more comfortable with
And
it.
you know what? Honestly, you're right. Like, if you had to, I think another way to look at certain relationships is like rank how confident you felt in that relationship. And I can
Mm,
admit that I felt my most confident, like in that, even though it was a short time, I definitely,
yeah.
even like things that I did at work, I can remember like certain seeds were sown during that time, because I felt
Yeah.
inwardly, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I got this.
You know what's so interesting too is like I mentioned before that like I dated a guy for like 4 years and he had a cleft too. And when that ended, it was like devastating on like so many levels in
Well, I
so
have
many
one
ways.
question before.
Um,
I have one thing.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
did you know he had a cleft when you first started dating him?
I did. So actually, I met him. So when I was in college, okay, so my, finding the love in myself and
Yeah.
cleft journey and stuff, the very first time I felt called to do something, I was like in college. And so I actually started, you know, writing about my life a little bit when I was in college. So I had posted something like I'm in Michigan. So in a Michigan like cleft group and it was all parents and it was like a website back then. It wasn't even like Facebook yet. Um, and he somehow had found me on that website and then we ended up like meeting and then, so we did know that about each other ahead of time. Um, and we were together for a long time. He was like someone I thought I was going to marry. But when it ended, like, it was devastating for a lot of reasons, but I think like probably like something that was really hard for me was like I was like, oh, like someone who has a cleft too, like they don't want me either. So like how is
Mm,
someone who's like normal, right? Like who's
yeah.
not cleft affected ever going to be able to like find me beautiful or like want to be with me or something. And so I feel like it took me a really long time to like get over that. And like and I wasn't at a point where I was like really acknowledging my cleft at that point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel like that really kind of messed with my head for a while.
I can understand that. I could completely understand that. And it's funny, I think that's the very opposite reason as why I have never dated someone. Like, I had a girlfriend who tried to match me with someone who had a
Yeah.
cleft. And I was
Yeah.
adamant because, again,
Really?
to me, it signaled, so the only way that I can be with someone is if they have a cleft.
Interesting. That is really interesting. Yeah. It definitely was quite a journey and it's been a journey since then. Um, but yeah, that's really interesting. And like, what about kids? Like, is that something that you talk to potential partners about? Like, and do you know if your cleft is genetic or not?
I do not know if my cleft is genetic. The last time that I talked to my little lady, my lady friend, as I like to call her, my lady
Yeah.
friend, she said that it's about probably like 50-50, which for
Oh,
me is cool. I
yeah.
currently am under the feeling that I do not want to have children because of my cleft.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just, and I know plenty of clefties who have had children, some without, some with, and I think it's
Hmm.
great for them. But I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not that I
Yeah.
can't do it. I know that I would be great at it because that's what everybody says. Oh my gosh, you'd be so great. I fully am aware of my
Yeah.
capability. I just, I don't want to. And so that is something that I have to talk to my mates with.
Yeah.
And that is why it blows my mind that younger self really thought that I could marry someone without having that
Yeah.
conversation. Like,
Right. Because
how
that's
are you,
huge.
how are you going to do that?
Yeah. I know. We'll figure it out once we're
We'll
already
figure that
married.
out. We were just going to, he was just going to know. He was just going to know. No, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
We have to have that conversation.
Yeah. And it was interesting because that guy that I dated before,
Mhm.
he, one of his fears was that because we both had clefts,
Yeah.
that our children would be cleft affected. And I did have, soon after I was born, my parents went to like a genetic counselor, and they found out that they don't think that it's genetic.
Mhm.
And for some reason, there was something about how, because I'm a girl, my chances are maybe like slightly higher because
Yeah.
clefts happen more often in
Yes.
boys or something. But it was so interesting to me when my boyfriend at the time said that he was like worried about that. He was like, "Are you worried that our kids might be cleft affected?" And I was like, "No, why?" Like it hadn't even like
Yes.
occurred to me then. And because at the time I was like, well, like who better to raise a cleft affected child than me? Like I've been through it. Like I get it. But like I feel like now that I've explored this and have been through it, and I have sort of been a fly on the wall in certain situations of like parents talking about like what it's like to go through it, I sometimes wonder like if it would be really challenging because then you're like reliving it, but like from an opposite side, you know?
Right. And that's one thing that I love about Zeb, that he was talking about. Like, he has to constantly make sure that he's not putting his clef experience on his son.
Yeah. That
And,
was really interesting. I forgot about that.
and so you got to think, we're a little older, we're seasoned, and so our children are going to have more modern advances as far as the cleft world. So they may not have that same thing. And I just,
Yeah.
again, I don't know. I don't think that's for
Yeah.
me. Because
Yeah.
you just said your ex-boyfriend, I'm right there with him. That's another thought that I always had. If I get with somebody who also has cleft, I'm like, he's going to definitely have two cleft. I don't,
Yeah.
no.
Might be
And
too
again, that may
challenging.
not be the case, but I just know in my head and then in my planning,
Yeah.
that's not what we planned.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So the first thing that I noticed when we hopped on here was you have amazing lipstick on, as you always do. What color are you wearing today?
This is ColourPop today. It is called, ooh, that's funny. It's called Sookie Sookie.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It looks very good.
Thank you. So yes, it's called Sookie Sookie. The reason why I always have on lipstick, especially in settings like these, so anyone who's watching, who's ever seen me before, my mother
Oh, really?
you would think that she has her own lipstick, like patent, trademark, whatever, but she believed in her lipstick to the point that when my brother was born and before she let them bring him in to see her, like, put on lipstick. And I'm like, woman, what is wrong with you? He can't see that. And she was like, no, I was going to meet my son for the first time and I wanted to look presentable. And so to her, you are not fully dressed without lipstick. I promise you, I could go out and see her right now, take off this lipstick, she's going to be like, oh, you don't have on any lipstick. Like, you're not dressed. The emperor has on no clothes.
Not dressed.
If I do not have on lipstick. But it's one of those things that now as an adult woman, I'm so thankful that she instilled that in me because, oftentimes with having a cleft, you don't want to do things, wear things that are going to draw attention to you, right?
Yeah. How old were you when you started wearing it? Were you like young?
Oh, I was always in her makeup. And definitely was the little girl who would be like, no, I wasn't. Got blue eyeshadow or something all smeared. So, but when I really started wearing, I would say like 10, 11, I started off as lip gloss, and I would overly gloss. It was almost you know, I
Yeah.
liked it, whatever.
Yeah.
But just having that was something that I didn't realize at the time really made me feel confident when I stepped out into the world.
Yeah.
Like, me putting on my lipstick. So
So
I now
cool.
am a lipstick girl
Yeah.
too.
Ah, I love that. I didn't wear it for a long time. Like, um, I remember I was in a wedding, and I was getting my makeup done for like the first time. And I remember the woman being like, you know, do you want your like eyes to be highlighted or your lips? And I was like, definitely my eyes. You know, like why would you even think that I would want my lips highlighted? And so, you know, she did what she did. And then I don't even remember when I started exactly. Like I was probably, it was late, like probably mid 20s, maybe late 20s. And I finally was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it out. We're gonna see how it goes. And it was so interesting because I had so many like women who weren't cleft affected who were like, oh my gosh, I love your lipstick. Or like they would show up, we would go out and they'd be like, I'm wearing lipstick because you always look so good in yours. And I was
You
like,
do.
oh,
You do.
like
I love like when on Instagram when I see pictures with you on with lipstick, I'm like, yes. Like even today when you came on, I was like, I do. I love you immensely. And I think for us clefty, especially cleft women, like I think there's so much power when you're like there,
Mhm.
yes, whatever.
Yes.
I'm still bold enough to wear my lip color. It
And you're
takes
like
us
calling
away.
attention to
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and it just makes it beautiful. You know, it kind of like highlights it and says like, even though this looks different, like I think it's beautiful, which is also why I have my nose ring. So
So I'm getting
that
one.
like
I, for
calls
the
attention.
longest time,
Yes.
felt like I could not get one. I was like, I cannot get one. And so
Yeah.
I am finally, I no longer feel that fear.
Ah,
I am getting my nose
good.
ring. I'm so excited.
Yay. That's so exciting. I absolutely love it. So
Oh my gosh, Ashley, we got to wrap this up. We know we can talk forever. I'm pretty sure that they have
I know
amazing
we can.
questions for us. Guys, we want to hear from you. Let us know your questions. What are your thoughts? And
Yeah.
thank you for joining our session. Okay, so today, in preparation for this, I went and got my hair cut.
Hi, ladies. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi. This session is amazing. I'm telling you, you two have to start a podcast together. This is so fantastic. And
Have you seen the chats?
they're
I'm
amazing.
in. A podcast might be coming.
There you go. Ashley has said it, guys. We have seen the chat.
You all heard it here first.
Heard it here first.
That's
I
what
have
it
a
is.
bunch of questions, so I'm going to jump in if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Okay, so the first question is from Katie, and she says, hey, lovelies, here's my question. As a non-cleft affected mom of a cleft affected daughter, what is the most important thing for me to understand about growing up cleft affected? And what is your opinion on how I can best support my daughter's journey?
Okay. Ashley, I can go first, or you want to go first?
Doesn't matter. You can hop
Okay.
on it and then I can go.
I would have to default back again to how my mom raised me. She always would tell me that I have a cleft. The cleft does not have me. And she would reiterate that. And so growing up, I was never allowed or, made to feel different. She would always showcase like, yes, you have a cleft. And if something was going on, she would put me into those events, but it wasn't my sole identity. And I think that was something that I'm very appreciative, because when I went out into the world, I think I had a little bit of a different experience than some clefties, because I was always empowered so much at home that I didn't know to not feel powerful. I didn't know to feel these negative things because my mother didn't know. She didn't put me in that space, and she held that space for me until I was ready to walk in that myself.
Yeah, and I definitely echo all of that. And I think another important thing to recognize is that this journey is not linear, as journeys never are. And there have, like, while I talk very openly and publicly about my cleft and my journey now, there were many, many years where I did not, and I did not feel comfortable. I wasn't interested in associating with other people who were born with cleft. I wasn't like, I just wasn't there yet. And I think that's okay. So I think it's just important to remember that, you know, your kids on their own path, and wherever they're at right now is okay. And, you know, just supporting and loving them wherever they are is so important.
Thank you both. Thank you. That was wonderful. And so next, I'm going to go to Iva. So Iva, you talked about receiving negative comments from a family member of someone that you were dating. Do you have any advice for someone who is in a similar situation, who might be getting comments like that they're not prepared for?
I think the biggest thing that I said he did a great job was, before I could even say something, I spoke to my partner, because that's a tricky situation to have to talk to someone else's family member. We all know our own family can be sometimes tricky to navigate. So if a family member of your partner has said something, I would first go to my partner and I would say, hey, I know this has nothing to do with you, but this person said this. This is how it made me feel. And then you can express to your partner, I would like for these actions to be done. I would probably say maybe have 2 or 3 expectations or actions that you would like, and see which one they could do. And if partner goes through with it, great. If partner does not, the next time you're around said family member and they again say something, you have the right, it's your feeling, it's your cleft, to say, excuse me, I was born that way. There's something that I cannot change. I have fully embraced it. You do not have to, but you cannot disrespect me. I think again, my parents always raised me, you can say anything as long as you say it with respect. So even though they do not respect you in your cleft, you can respectfully say, you're going to respect me.
Absolutely. And open communication is just so important.
Yes, absolutely.
And Ashley, I have one for you. So you make it clear that you are cleft affected and proud in your dating profile. And we love that. And we're wondering if you have advice for someone who's kind of thinking about putting it in their profile, or just kind of how they might initiate that conversation in general.
So when I first started online dating, the first several years, because ladies, it has been a long process. When I first started, I never would talk about it, and I would go on dates and it wouldn't come up. It wouldn't necessarily come up verbally, but, you know, sometimes I would get like the look. And so I can't even remember exactly when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put it in my profile and see what happens. And even before I think I did that, I just started like trying to bring it up in conversation before I actually met people. And sometimes when I say it, there are guys who will be like, oh, I feel like we don't actually have that much in common. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, like now I know, now I found out I haven't wasted my time, like, well, you know, beyond that initial talking phase. And so honestly, I have found it so maybe like empowering to have it in my profile. And then I also make a point to talk about it ahead of time too, so that people know that not only is this a part of who I am, but like advocacy for the cleft community is a huge part of my life. And so if you're not interested, then bye. So yeah, it's just like, I found it to be very empowering, and it just kind of like weeds out the wrong ones.
Absolutely. And that was so powerfully and beautifully said. I love it. They are telling me that we are at time, so we have to wrap this up. But thank you both so much. This was amazing, and we look forward to continuing the conversation.
Yeah.